This is Sneaker Gears. My name is Levi, and thank you for joining me. I know it's been a few months. If you haven't seen my channel before, please check some videos out. But today we are doing a review on 3 shoes, and that is the Nike Greater Than line. Technically, this came out last year. We already have the GT2 cut out, which I'm going to do some comparisons to. But the GT line was Nike's probably most comprehensive lineup they've done in a long time, where you had 3 shoes either meant to work together or to really specify what kind of player you are and how these shoes fit. And that is, and we have them back here behind me, the GT Run, the GT Cut, which is probably the most popular, and you've seen on a lot of NBA players' feet, and the GT Jump. All 3 of these have amazing tech, and technically were better than a lot of the signature lineup shoes that came out. But we're going to dive into all 3. We're going to dive into what shoes are comparable and or better, and hopefully break it down for you. Let's jump right in. All right, so we're going to start with maybe the worst shoe, at least for me, and that's the GT Run. You take a look here. This thing was a predecessor, or the successor, forgive me, from the Nike BB NXT. This is all React cushion. It has a React drop-in insole that I can highly recommend. This has a Zoom Air unit in the forefoot, as well as a full-length size Zoom Strobel unit in the forefoot for that double stack Zoom Air. This thing came heavy hitting. I'm gonna grab the BB NXT real quick. If you're comparing these two, this one is much more of a cloth kind of durable fit. This thing feels so much lighter, so much more flexible, really not much break-in period. If you get these, they either fit you or they don't. Like, there's not much. This took some break-in, but it worked. I was able to do a 12 in this. This one I had to do a 12.5 because this one did break in and really molds to your foot. Now, this didn't use the double stack Zoom Air, but it used kind of those thicker Zoom pods in the forefoot, similar to what we had in the LeBron 17, and what we're getting on the Greek Freak line, the Zoom Freak 3 and 4. This also had that drop-in React insole, which I love, and this was also full-length React. Overall, the biggest issue with either one of these is support, and you're not getting as much of it. But again, if you're a runner on the court, if you're a shooter where you're going back and forth, up and down, you're not as shifty, so having the support is not a crucial thing for this. Now, let's dive in quickly to kind of fit and work our way down. Fit wise, like I said, this does run a little bit snug all the way around, really shallow toe box. So if you have a little more girthier foot, this is iffy for you. Kind of narrow all the way throughout. You can kind of see there's no real outrigger here. So this is one I did have to go a half size up, but I did find it pretty good. I want to double check that I didn't do a 13. Yeah, so this was a 12.5. Definitely couldn't have done a 12, and even the 12.5 I felt was snug, but it worked. So half size up if you're going with this. Support wise, there's not much here. You're sitting on top of all this cushion. You're not really underneath here. So the only real lateral support you have is maybe some stiffness right there, and this super flimsy upper, this very, let's see if you can see it, tiny outrigger, which I wish did a little bit more. It's okay, right? So this is enough for you to come around a screen. This is enough for when you're running up and down the court. It's still plenty supportive. Definitely has a very solid heel cup, and it does hold you in as far as that material is very malleable, so it does feel nice around your foot. But don't get this if you need a lot of support or if you're nursing any kind of ankle injury. Working way down on the cushion, this should be incredible, and by all accounts it really is. But there's a huge negative aspect for this shoe, at least for me, and it might affect you depending how your body mechanics are. This shoe, if you guys know what a heel drop is, it literally is talking about the height of the heel and how low it drops to the forefoot. So most running shoes have a heel drop of, say, 8 millimeters. So your foot's kind of like this, and 12 millimeters. A lot of Kobe's had like a 4 millimeter drop. So you're almost level, just barely raising your heel. This is one of the few shoes I've worn, and it could have been because of my weight. I'm about 245 pounds. I actually had a negative heel drop on this. So my heel always felt below the cushion because this is all just foam back here, and I have double stacked high pressure Zoom Air in the forefoot. Because of that, this does a couple things. One, it forces you on the balls of your feet. Not a bad thing, right? You want to be up on there. But two, when your heel comes down, if you look at the mechanics, my elbow, I guess, is not moving with me. Essentially, it does lead to hyperextending your knee. I wore these probably more than I should have, and I would say over 3 months, I hyperextended my knee 3 different times in this. And every time I wore it, my knee would be sore. So I put a lot into this. Maybe I shouldn't have. Now that is specific to my body mechanics, and I've had hyperextend my knee in the past, so I'm a little more predisposed. This shoe did not help. This is probably a shoe I either want to give away or sell. The only reason I am keeping it is because 1, I think it looks cool. 2, it actually still is very comfortable. And 3, if you're going to get the shoe, it is worth it just for this React insole. This is what I used in my Nike Kyrie Infinities, or the Kyrie 8s, what do you want to call them, or even the Kyrie 7s. Adding this along with that forefoot zoom and the Kyries makes a huge difference. So if you can get these cheap, and I've seen these at the outlet, even that alone is worthwhile. Lastly, the traction. It really should be beastly. You can take a look at that, and for all intents and purposes, it was very good. It's the kind of shoe that didn't have the support where you can take advantage of this traction as much. Most of the players I've seen wearing the GT Run in the NBA have just been larger, power forward centers in the NBA. They're not this shifty guard. You don't need all that traction compared to this one, which ideally this should have better traction. This rubber compound let me down, whereas this was gripping, but this rubber compound wasn't nearly as good as it could have been. This is way more durable, a lot of grooves, and I felt like this was a really well-matched traction for this shoe. Again, you're not going to get a super bite. This is an all-star level, but this is still very good and didn't let me down. All right, next we kind of have a very unique shoe. Only a few colorways were released. They weren't as popular, and even fewer NBA players are wearing it, and that is the GT Jump. This is a shoe that maybe should have been a LeBron, to be honest. I actually like this colorway just because it did actually have kind of a Volt Zoom Air in the forefoot and a pink Zoom Air in the heel. And I took that and just kind of mismatched the laces here, so I thought it looked pretty dope. So this shoe is for a big man. This shoe is for if you want a lot of cushion, maybe you're not big, you're just explosive, you want a lot of bounce, and if you have or need a lot of support. This is the most max shoe Nike has ever done. This is one of the shoes I almost want to buy another pair because there's nothing like this. It is crazy. Let's jump right in a little bit more and to see what you get and some comparables that you might want to buy instead. All right, fit. Fit is super narrow. I actually had to do a 13 on this. I was able to try these on at Nike Town, downtown Chicago, and do a 12.5, which is perfect lengthwise, but it is just a narrow running shoe. There's not much of an outrigger here, and you're actually sitting within this cage. So your foot goes inside. At least for me, I had to do a straight 13. So for me, that's maybe a half size up because of width, or a full size up depending on your true size, what you're doing. So I had to do a 13 on this, but fit and lockdown, love it. Way overly engineered, but still a lot of weight savings because of the materials they use, where you can see right through to the shoe. So the materials are really lightweight on top. It does end up feeling a little bottom heavy, but fit wise, plenty of space here. It's not as shallow as the GT Run, and you have a lot more kind of your true high top feel up here, where you just feel crazy locked in. A lot of plastic and support, and I'll work our way down here. This has a full plastic running all the way through frame running all the way around. This is similar to what I think Adidas used to do, where they had that full, instead of support underneath, they had the support around. This does both. You have a plastic frame here between the visible Zoom Air stacks in the front and the heel that are huge, as well as you have a full-length Zoom strobel. You guys, I don't know if you can see it down there. So you have full-length Zoom Air underfoot on top of 2 giant Zoom Air units. The cushion is crazy. So because it is so volatile, really, so bouncy, Nike put a ton of support to make sure you are contained. This is a shoe that, if nursing some injuries, I trusted the shoe. I can wear this shoe. If I had a hard workout, you're feeling wobbly, you guys do deadlifts, you do squats, I loved wearing this shoe. I still felt bouncy, but at the end of the day, it did feel heavier underfoot because it is so bottom heavy. It did feel overly restrictive. If you did want to play really shifty, this is maybe not the perfect shoe for that, but there's so much going on in this shoe. Loved it. It is bouncy. It is super supportive. This is what you feel, or I guess would want to feel maybe when you try on a LeBron. The LeBron 19, and I believe I did have a review on that, is probably equally as supportive, but this is way bouncier. All right, LeBron 19 with that Air unit with Zoom in it, it was an Air Max Zoom, wasn't nearly as bouncy and comfortable as what we're getting on this one. I'll have a LeBron 20 review coming out soon, and the traction there matches it. You guys can take a look here. It uses kind of a wave bone pattern going all the way through. For how high off the court you are, really enjoy this traction. Never had any issues. Really well spaced. I don't barely remember even dusting this. And this was just a fun shoe to bring. This was a backup shoe in a lot of cases. And if I know I'm doing a hard workout, this is the shoe I wanted to bring with me. Now, for comparables, since this is hard to get, I just started seeing these on Nike outlet stores. And if you can get this for a discount, grab it. Honestly, the other side of the coin to this, with all the cushion but not the support, is the Jordan 36. This is giving you a similar upper. You can kind of see this is Jordan's, Leno weave. This is Nike's, or whatever they want to call it, and I'll kind of list it. But you're getting that full-length zoom with that bouncy forefoot zoom. This doesn't have the heel zoom area, but honestly, you don't really miss it. And this also has a little bit more of a forward push because of that kind of flight or eclipse system they have here. The 36 is like playing on a trampoline. It is super lightweight. It is so much fun to play in. I got 2 pairs of these, but this is the only shoe I've rolled my ankle in 5 years, the Jordan 36. So the support is not great. I've said that. And again, if you have strong ankles or you have a really nice foundation as far as your balance, you're going to be just fine. It's not a fault of the shoes. It's just you want something lightweight and really bouncy. There's consequences to that. Add a ton of weight, add a ton of support, and you have kind of the big brother to this. So if you guys wanted to have an idea of what a super bouncy shoe is, or you just want to have something for your tired legs, either one of these are going to do the job. All right, lastly is easily the best shoe of the bunch. This is what most NBA players are wearing. This shoe was super hard to get, especially in this colorway, and that's the GT Cut. This somehow gave you a max cushion shoe that still felt low to the court, which is just really weird. Those two things don't go together. Decently lightweight, and it was just so much fun to play in. This is the shoe where if I didn't know what kind of court I was going to be on, I would take these shoes. Like I would. There's only one negative of this shoe, and I'll get to that. But this literally felt like what Kobe would have released with the Kobe 12, or whatever you want to call it, the Kobe NXT, EVO, whatever. This would have been the next Kobe if we didn't unfortunately lose the Black Mamba. Now, rip Kobe. This shoe is heavier than what a Kobe would be. That's the only fault I can give to it. Fit wise, I was able to do, I'm going to double check, a 12.5. I'm a 12.5 to 13 and pretty much all my Kobe's. I have every single Kobe, and only 2 of them I think I'm able to do size 12. And even those are tight. I probably would have preferred a 12.5. Did a 12.5 in this. If you have a wide forefoot, this little plastic piece can get in the way. kind of see right here because you are being contained. I have a wider midfoot, which is why I'm able to use this. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this does have another drop-in midsole, and you do want to be within the cupping of this shoe. So if you have a wide foot and you start spacing this out, it's not as comfortable. So going up that half size or full size, if you're a wide footer, can make a big difference. Now, like the other shoes, this does have Zoom Strobel as well, full length Zoom Air, full drop-in React midsole that's way thicker than what we get in the GT Run. And then this also has, which a lot of people didn't realize, a double stacked heel zoom, except it was bottom loaded versus the double stacked forefoot zoom only in the GT Run. And then you had double stacked forefoot and heel on the GT Jump here. The GT Run had the full double stacked forefoot. So notice how they all a little bit different. This shoe fit is fantastic, feels lightweight. Cushion is amazing. You feel low to the court. You feel quick. There's not much negative on this shoe. The support is there. The lockdown is there. There's a reason a ton of NBA players were able to wear this comfortably no matter what position you play. And the only negative, which you're not going to see on a more professional court, whether you're in college, higher in high school, and definitely not the pros, is the weakness to this shoe was the traction. Take a look there. This traction on a clean court is awesome. I let 2 other players use this shoe because I loved it that much. I'm like, you guys gotta try this shoe. Maybe I'm missing something. I slipped in the shoe a couple times. Both of those players fell in this shoe. And I'm laughing because the traction is awesome, but it picks up dust and it doesn't do it consistently, meaning you don't feel it slipping where you can wipe. It's just, it bites, and then boom, you're gone. So I found it funny when they fell, and I told them beforehand too, hey, make sure you wipe. Which again, most hoopers are going to wipe your shoe anyway. That's why in the NBA they have little sticky things before anyone checks in or checks out. You're taking care of the shoe. You're making sure the court is clean. And if you have a solid court, there is no flaws to this shoe. This thing is incredible. Kobe would have been proud to call his this shoe, and this is close to being better or as good as any signature shoe that's out there by any brand. It is amazing. Now, with all that said, this was hard to get. These got expensive. The GT Cut 2 is already out. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do a full review on the GT Cut 2, but I do want to give kind of a quick snippet here. The GT Cut 2 is almost the same shoe except much easier available, a few more colors available if you are trying to get it. I know there's sizes online. This color I believe is on discount. I'll put a code below where you can buy that for the holidays here. It does come with a similar, and I'll put it back here, drop-in midsole. It's not as thick, so you do feel a little closer to the court, which I think is an improvement. And they put the Zoom Air in the midsole or insole, so you feel the heel zoom way better than the bottom loaded there. You feel that obviously it's a full-length Zoom Air, Zoom Strobel here, so just as comfortable. It does feel heavier, right? You have a lot more stuff going on. You can feel how we're getting farther from Kobe and what he would have wanted, but the support is crazy. The materials feel great. I also did a 12.5 in this shoe. I was able to try a pair on at Nike, and maybe I could have done a 12. This thing does have a lot of give, and it does break in some. So 12.5, I like going with that if I can get it. It's harder to get that size for me, so if I was forced to do 12, probably could have done it and it will be snug. 12.5 is perfect. So support, cushion, better. What could they improve? The traction. This traction is way better for the dust, way grippier. It's softer, even though it is so deep. Like, you can move all of these nubs. These go back and forth quite a bit. Like, it's definitely not meant for outdoors. And again, for the price of the shoe, I wouldn't recommend it anyway. I don't play much outdoors no matter what. So, which I apologize, guys. I know a lot of outdoor hoopers around the world. This does have just more torsional rigidity. This does have more or a better feeling cushion, being closer to the court and as much cushion, better traction. As good as the GT Cut was, and still really is, you can get the GT2. You're not missing out, guys. I mean, the only thing I would say is maybe this feels a little heavier on foot, but in hand right now, this actually feels lighter. I can put some measurements kind of below to give you guys an idea. Honestly, they play super similar. Really enjoy either one. This shoe, the only negative, if I'm gonna give it any kind of negative, is this is a basketball shoe. Duh. And what I mean by that is, this is not really meant for casual. If you're gonna wear this off court, this thing wants you to go for it. It is lightweight. It is a very performance oriented shoe. This is, if you guys have ever driven like a high-end Porsche GT line or a race car on the street, they suck. The transmission is meant to go fast. The engine is meant to rev high. It's not meant to go stop and go. If you're just wearing these casually, they're not nearly as good. Meaning for a lot of you guys who are buying the shoe out there and maybe want to use it for more than just basketball, maybe use it for style, use it off court, it's not nearly as good. This is not going to be as stable for something like lifting, which I'll get into that. So, but what this does have, because it has that drop in midsole, if you guys are following me on Instagram, I just did a recent post. I also put it on Reels and our Facebook channel. You can swap out this midsole for the Metcon Turbo 2, and I'll post that picture here, and put double stacked forefoot zoom in this. I don't want to say that makes this better than a lot of shoes out there, but it works really well. And the Metcon is a shoe that's meant more for lifting and training. It's a little more balanced. So if you are doing stability workouts and being able to swap the midsoles out and make the Metcon more of a runner with this insole, make this even more heavily forefoot cushion if you need that, it is such an awesome combo. It really is. And if you did want to use this to lift, putting that midsole in here gives you a much more stable heel. So if you are trying to move weight, you have a much more stable base on this than having the Zoom Air and the softer React you're getting in the standard midsole. All that said, hopefully this video helped you out. The GT line, I'm super impressed with Nike. Right now with their full lineup, it's not as clear cut on what shoe to get and what you're getting from each shoe, and I'll try to break that down with the PG line, with the Greek Freak line. The Kyrie line is now gone, with your KD, with your LeBron. They have the GT Cut 2. The Del Don shoe is amazing. Then you go to Jordan brand with Zion. Then you have Under Armour, obviously Adidas. It gets kind of muddled. Hopefully what I always try to do is make it a little easier for you guys so you know what shoe to get and how it can help you with your performance and your training. I do have some Way of Weights coming in, some great review on those, so I do have some high expectations. So I'm excited to see how those are. And as always, guys, if you have questions, put them in the comments below. Hit me up on Instagram, and if I can help you out in any way, I'm happy to. This is Levi with Sneaker Gears, and I will come at you later.